Today we are putting an Iron Rock off-road 3.5-inch suspension lift on this Jeep. We did a lot of looking around. We've put a lot of lifts on stuff over the years, but we did a lot of posting on forums and asking people what their favorite lift was, what the best one to lift. Iron Rock came back over and over and over and over and over again. So people would sometimes list 2 or 3. They always listed Iron Rock and a couple of others. So we went with Iron Rock. So far seems pretty awesome. We're really excited about it. Looking forward to getting it on. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm Joel, this is Motors and Mischief, and this is our 1997 Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's getting a lift. Okay, these are the components that came in the lift kit. We've got 2 front springs, we've got extensions for the sway bars front and rear, and we've got 4 shocks. Took one of them out so you guys can see it. Everything looks really high quality. Very pleased with the components and stuff that we've got here so far. This is their most budget-friendly kit in that it uses the front springs from the ZJ to go onto the back so that you don't have to get front and rear springs. We're going to try that and see how it works. If for any reason it does not work properly, then you can buy just the springs. We'll let you guys know and then we'll install those. Also, it has an appointment tomorrow to get its new tires on it, so we'll show you that. Because of an ordering issue that was my fault, not Iron Rock Off-Road's, we did not get our adjustable upper and lower control arms, which I wanted to put on all at the same time because it'll save us a couple steps, but due to timing and stuff, we're not going to do that. So we'll put them all in this video, so you guys will get to see them, but first we're going to put the lift on, then we'll put the control arms on and the tires and everything. We'll show you all at the end. So first thing to do is to put the lift on. In order to do that, we need to jack up the Jeep and pull the tires, and we'll start disconnecting components on the front axle. So let's go. All right, first steps on this thing is to go ahead and we're going to disconnect these sway bar links, and we're also going to loosen up the control arm bushings, and we're going to disconnect the shock so that we can get this to drop down. We also have to take the track bar loose, and for this particular kit we did not get an adjustable track bar. So what we're going to have to do is drill a new mounting hole for the track bar. So there's instructions in the kit on how to do that. We'll go ahead and disconnect that from the axle side and get everything on this side and on the other side disconnected. We've got a jack underneath the axle to hold it up right now. Once we've got all that stuff disconnected, loosened up, we'll go ahead and drop it down. This can be done without a spring compressor. We are going to attempt to do it without a spring compressor. We'll see what happens. If we can't get it, we'll go pick one up, but instructions say you can, and my experience with lifts is that you can. We'll tweak the axle if necessary, but we should be able to do it. Okay, got the shock bolts, the upper shock bolts off. If you look down underneath, way down there, you can see the upper shock for the driver's side here. It's underneath this, so we couldn't get the air hammer, or not the air hammer, we couldn't get the impact gun on it to get it off like you can on the passenger side, which is right there and nice and easy. So pull both of those off. We were able to get a wrench on that without any problems, so it just takes a little longer to get it off, but those have got to be off, and now we can pull the bottom half of the shock. All right, shock's out, and other than loosening up the control arms, everything's done on this side to be able to come out. We're going to pull the bolts for the track bar and get the stuff off the other side. Guys, that is everything disconnected except for loosening up the control arms. We're going to see how easy it is to get that out of there. I think it won't be any big deal to get the stock springs out, but probably have a little trouble getting the new ones in. So we'll see how much room we've got And if we don't have enough, then we'll loosen up those bolts and get those in. All right, guys, we got that in. So the instructions say to loosen up the control arm bolts. We could not get the lower ones here loosened up. It was just a combination of a whole lot of things, and we gave up. So we just pulled the bolt on that, dropped the entire axle out. Be careful if you do that, because this brake line is the limiting factor at that point, and you can hang the axle by your brake line if you're not careful. You definitely don't want to do that. But while there's still a little bit of relief on the bolt on the brake line here, we were able to get this back in. We're probably going to need to get some longer brake lines, but we weren't supposed to have to, because this is only a 3.5-inch lift, so we'll see where it ends up when we get that back together, but we'll keep an eye on that. So this is in the right spot now, and we will pull the axle back into place and get that control arm put back in, and then we'll install the shock. All right, guys, you can see pulling the bolt for the control arm, the back one that's outside of the unibody, definitely makes it so that you can get that spring in there. It makes it a piece of cake. However, getting that control arm back in place is a bit of a pistol. The axle, because the springs are on the front of it and everything's torquing it this way, it wants to twist back, and so it makes it so that the bolt doesn't line up at the end. So what we got is a strap going over to the F250, which is pretty heavy, so it's not moving. And then we used a second jack to lift that arm back up. And now you can see we've got that mostly lined up. We've still probably pull on it just a little bit more to get it in so we can slide that bolt in. But that's what we had to do. That's our contraption there to get it to work. So when you're doing it, if your axle swings to the back like ours did, that's how we're able to do it. If you're not in the garage like this, you can obviously just park your car in front of it and hook come along to that. But if you're like this, then hopefully you've got a broke down F250 sitting next to it for you. All right, let's get that bolt in and keep going. All right, we've got the next step done, which is to come down here and drill a new hole for the track bar 3/4 of an inch towards the driver's side. So we did that. It was not easy. The axle never wants to move. It swings to the passenger side when you disconnect the track bar, and it never wants to go back. We had that same problem when we put the track bar in it when we first got it. So we ended up running, you can kind of see it back there. We ended up running a come along over to the frame on this side to pull the axle back over. So everything's lined back up now. We're on to the next steps, which is these guys. Okay, the next thing to do is to install these front sway bar links. So we've got to put these bushings together like this. Those go inside there, and then we use this hardware and these brackets. So we'll zoom in. There's a picture right there of how they're going to go together. Go ahead and put those on. Okay, we got the sway bar, the new sway bar links installed. So this gets bolted up right here. This goes towards the outside. You'll see that that center nut is not, this is not centered right here. It's off to one side. So you put the offset to the outside of the vehicle, and then so you bolt through here. Use the factory ones that you had. Comes with new bolts for up here. This gets torqued to 95, and then these get torqued to 78. So now it's time for shocks, and then the front's done. All right, guys, and there she is down. We got the shocks in, got the tires back on for the front. You can see shocks all look good, did a nice job. That all looks great, and she's sitting up 3.5 in the front. So now we're gonna spin her around, put the back lift on it, then it goes down to get tires, and then we're bringing it back in in a couple days to put the control arms on it. So let's spin it around. All right, guys, we got it turned around, got it jacked up, pulling the rear tires, and then we're going to drop the axle down to full droop. We're going to pull out the rear springs and the rear shocks and disconnect the sway bar. We got new sway bar extensions right there, and or end links, I guess, and of course the new shocks, and we're taking the springs from the front, putting them in the back. Okay, guys, so to go over the components, here is our sway bar linkage. So we're going to unbolt that from right here and right here. The hold down for the spring, rear spring itself, and a rear shock. So we're going to disconnect these, disconnect that. We're going to loosen up the control arms and get this axle to flex down so we can pull this spring out of here. Okay, got our front spring installed in the rear, got our keeper installed, and got the shock out. We're going to put the spring in on the other side, and then we'll put the shocks in, and this will be ready to go. We ended up loosening right here and this one right here, and that was all it took to be able to get this down far enough to get it in. So, other side. All right, guys, it is a couple days later. Jeep is sitting. It is not driving around because it has developed a bit of a death wobble problem, and we know it's from the control arm bushings. We're also not happy with the adjustment on the track bar. So as we showed you guys, the Iron Rock kit has you drill a new hole for the front track bar, and it works fine. And if you go with the cheap kit and you want to do that, it does work. Be super careful that you follow the directions exactly and line it up. But we went with a adjustable track bar so that we can center up the axle exactly where we want it. So we picked that up. We also picked up a new steering stabilizer. Now, steering stabilizers do not solve death wobble. Steering stabilizers are never the problem of death wobble. All they do is stop death wobble and prevent it from whatever components are. They can sometimes overcome those until they wear out. So we are putting a new one on because this one is worn out, and they do definitely help to control death wobble, but they're never the cause. So we are gonna go ahead and put a new one on. I don't want you guys thinking that we're doing that because of the death wobble. We're doing it because that's worn out. We're fixing the death wobble issue with the control arms. So anyway, pretty sure that's what the issue is, the control arms. They will be in a couple days. So we are gonna go ahead and put that track bar on, and then we'll show you guys what that looks like, and then we'll cut to the control arms as soon as they show up. All right, let's get on that track bar. All right, guys, got the old track bar off, and we will save this. I'm sure there will be another ZJ in our lives. This one's perfectly good because we just put it on this thing about a year ago. Here is the brand new one, and we will be adjusting its length and then installing it. So as you can see, it is quite a bit beefier. So it's Rubicon Express, and this actually wasn't very expensive for adjustable. It was only about 150 bucks. And it's got a nice heim joint in the end here, which we will be adjusting out and then installing. So came with all the components to build the heim joint and install. So those are all right there. All right, get that installed. All right, guys, so we ran into just a little bit of a problem. We've been drilling up to drill out the mount for the track bar. It's got to get drilled out to a 5/8, and it's cone shaped right now for the ball joint. And of course, we're replacing it with a heim joint. And so we have to drill that out. The problem that we keep running into is the space between the axle and the steering controls, steering linkages, is not big enough to fit our big old drill through, which that one can handle this 5/8 bit. But the battery is too fat, and it keeps jamming the drill up and making a big old mess. So I went down to the hardware store, tried to buy a longer drill bit, could not find one. Tried to use our other drill, our corded drill here. so that it would be thin enough to fit up inside there, and its chuck is too small. So ended up buying a new drill. Isn't that always the way you do a project and you just have to buy new tools? But this one should do it. I believe it's thin enough to fit down inside there. And this is like the 5th or 6th time we've needed a corded drill with a bigger chuck. So now we have one, and that'll be good. So we're gonna go ahead and drill that out, and hopefully it will fit. And then once that's out, we can install that track bar. All right, let's go. Okay guys, there's a difference between the stock, which is basically just bent sheet steel, and the aftermarket, which is really, really cool. Per the instructions, this part goes against the frame and the bend goes up for ground clearance. So in this particular view, the ground is this way and Jeep's headed that way. So we'll go ahead and install those and show you when they're installed. All right, you can probably tell by the way I look that this thing has been fighting us. Now, this isn't a how-to video, this is a project video, but we do want to give you a few tips so that if you are watching this to do your own, that you've got a little bit of help. We got the control arms all installed. You can see, let's see, I'll put you underneath here. Let's see, there's the upper, and you can see there's the lower from that side, and we've got both of them in over there. We haven't tightened anything up yet because we're getting ready to put the track bar in. What I did want to mention though with the control arms, the axle wants, if you're not using spring compressors, the axle wants to twist because of the force of the springs. There's a lot of different things that you can do to adjust those. You can use a come along keeper thing like this. You can use an actual come along. You can jack the front of the axle off the spring perch. There's a lot of things to do that you can do to adjust it. We ended up having to do all of those to get it to fit in properly. It was a fight. Our nickel's worth of free advice, do the uppers together. Don't do one upper and then the other upper, especially if you're using the adjustable uppers to adjust the angle of your pinion, which is what we did. We wanted to twist it just a little bit, not much because we don't want to mess with the caster too badly, but we did want to help point the pinion up just a little bit so that the angle on the drive shaft isn't going to be quite so severe as where it would be if we left it at factory. So in order to do that, we had to use the strap and the jack and just a bunch of stuff. It was a fight. So now we're going to, those are still loose until we get the track bar in place. And then once the track bar is in place and tightened down, then we'll tighten all of those into place, and then the alignment guys can have their fun with it. So anyway, those are all on. And like I said, they did fight us, but we finally prevailed. Now we're gonna put the track bar on. Once the track bar is on, we're done up front. We'll spin it around, and then we've got the track bar in the back, actually the bracket to adjust the track bar. And then sway bar in the back, and we're done. So then I can go over and get its tires put on it. So let's get that front track bar on. All right guys, got the track bar in. It's actually very straightforward. Drilled it out, was not terrible. Drilled that up there and got our new Heim joint installed and new nut on the end of that. That's locked into place, and then got our new heavier duty bolt on this side. So that's all installed and it looks great. Trick, so obviously if you've ever messed with a track bar, you know that as soon as you unbolt the track bar, the axle moves to one side or the other, and it's a giant pain to get back in the right spot. So usually what I do is the same tricks that we use to get the control arms into place, is come-alongs and straps and whatever have you to get it back into place. However, this Rubicon, who is this? Where do we get this from? Yeah, Rubicon Express. they had a good trick. So the way we centered up the axle by measuring, put a straight edge on the tire, brought it up to where it touched the fender, and then measured off the fender to see that it was even on both sides. So it was easy to do that and measure it. And then when we needed to move the truck, Rubicon Express said just move the steering wheel, and it actually worked fantastic. So with everything loose, control arms and track bar, you just put the tiniest little bit of pressure on that steering wheel with the Jeep off, and the whole body moves back and forth over the axle. So it was a piece of cake to dial it in. I didn't even need any help. I did it all by myself. So little tip, that worked fantastic. And as you saw, that thing's in, looks good. So now that that's in, we're gonna go ahead and tighten up the front control arms, torque them down. We did torque the track bar. I don't know what the factory specs are, but these specs are for this aftermarket one, which has got a much beefier bolt. So they may be the same, they may be heavier duty, but this one was 150 at the frame and 85 at the axle. So that's all done. Those are torqued. We're going to torque up the control arms, and the front will be completely finished, and we'll spin it around. All right, let's go. All right, guys, it is the next day. Time for an update. So this ZJ is kicking our behind. We're supposed to get the lift kit on the Jeep, take the Jeep down to Discount Tire where we had our BFGs waiting for us, but it is taking so long to get this thing done. We actually just took the wheels off of it today, threw them in the back of the Suburban, took that down, had Discount mountain balance the new tires, brought them back. So you can see we've got them installed on the front. They look great. Obviously, once we get this back end fixed, we will take this thing out, and you guys probably seen it in the thumbnail, but this is our problem right here. So as you can see, don't get confused, we're gonna flip you upside down there. There is our track bar. And if you look, you can see there's no bolt on that side and there's no bolt on that side. And yet that track bar is firmly attached to its mount. How they have to be installed. So you can see the adjuster does go up at the top just fine, but they've got to ride like that as far as being able to clear that shock mount. And it doesn't have any issues with the ground clearance. So Iron Rock, terrific products. If you guys could upgrade your instructions a little bit, maybe put links on your website for every single instruction, every single product that you've got them on some of them, not on all of them. Would be awesome if they're on all of them. That would be fantastic. So that's our nickel's worth of free advice to you, Iron Rock. Other than that though, great kit. Like we said, we really like it. We're very happy with it. But, all right guys, it's all done. It is a couple days later. You can see we got the tires on it. The lift is completely installed, and we've taken it down to Les Schwab, and they did the alignment on it. It lined up perfect. Everything's in the green. It came out gorgeous, and it's driving fantastic. So, all right, let me pull this thing out. We'll do a walk around on it so you can get a real good look at it, and tell you what we think. All right guys, that is it. This is the install of the Iron Rock Off-Road 3.5 inch lift kit and their adjustable front control arms, which we really love. We're actually going to get a set of the adjustable ones from them for the back and scoot our rear axle back just a little tiny bit. As you can see, the placement on the front tire is perfect. We did kick it forward about 3/4 of an inch, and these tires are 265/75 16s, and they fit beautifully without rubbing. We did decide to scoot them forward just a little bit, and then we did end up having to trim the front bumper just a touch, just right here. We didn't have to trim any of this side. We did trim right there in the front. As you can see here at the back, those rears are pretty darn close. So we do want to get the kit to kick those back. Anyway, that's it, guys. Really appreciate you watching. Hope you like the ZJ. We do have some more projects on this coming. We're going to be building a custom roof rack for it. We're going to be replacing the leather on the seats so that it looks brand new. And we still got some paint work. We got bumpers. Got quite a bit of stuff that we're doing this. So stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel so that you stay on top of that. If you like this, hit the like button so that YouTube shares this far and wide. Really appreciate you watching. Subscribe. You'll become part of the Mischief Mafia. Thanks so much for watching, guys. All right. Peace. So today we are putting an iron rock... Cat hair in my mouth. Today we are putting an iron rock off-road 3.5 inch. Yes. Today we are putting. All right, next thing to do is to install